balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Father's Day bonus episode number 69. Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. This is your host, Lori Jill Eisenstadt, IBCLC. I'm doing something different. I am recording this on Thursday, June 16th, 2016. Father's Day is this weekend, and I'm quite sentimental about this day of celebration. I love my daddy. He passed away a few years ago, and I'm so sad that this will be another year that I can't give him a big hug and wish him a happy Father's Day. Another year has passed, and I think of all that he has missed, all the great things his kids and grandchildren have accomplished this year. I know that he's proud for all of this, I'm sure, but I sure do miss seeing his face beaming with pride, with love for his kids and grandchildren. I hold him close during my everyday life, and he travels with me with all the important life events that I go to. And yet, it is still not the same as getting a big bear hug from my daddy. I wish I knew the day that he was going to die. I would have made it a point to say, I love you, just one more time. And yet, I know he knew that I loved him, and I know for sure that he loved me unconditionally. And from this point on, that will always just have to be good enough. One of the funniest memories I have of my father's response to my breastfeeding is when he hung out with me one day shortly after Alicia, my first baby, was born. He came into the apartment and he wanted to hold Alicia right away, and I remember my mother saying, "In a while, can't you see, Stanley, that she's breastfeeding her?" And my father was like, "Oh, it just looks like she's sleeping in her arms." Me, no, Daddy, Mommy's right. Alicia's breastfeeding. To which my father starts going on this whole big thing where he's having these light bulb moments about being around other women who are probably breastfeeding, and he just thought they were holding a sleeping baby. It's like he missed out on something because he didn't know that they were breastfeeding. At one point, he turned to my mother and said, "Do you remember that mother on our last flight to Vegas?" And I commented on how good her baby was and how long the baby slept in her arms. And my mother said, "Yeah." And my father said with a twinkle in his eye, "I bet she was breastfeeding her baby." Then he started to recount numerous other times he may have been in the presence of a breastfeeding mom and didn't even realize it. This was all such of an interest to him because I don't think he was really ever around mothers who breastfed, and he thought I was the only one, definitely coming out of left field. My mother had 5 kids. She didn't breastfeed. Neither did his siblings or her siblings' wife breastfeed. We lived on a block with many, many young families, and nobody breastfed. So none of his peers or family members. And you know what? My father was surrounded by many family and friends in his daily life. A lot of kids. And you know what? No one breastfed. My father, Stanley, was a guy who loved breasts. Nothing wrong with that. But the thought of him missing out on this realization that breastfeeding could have been going on all around him and he didn't even know about it, well, that was quite intriguing to him. Before I say what I'm going to say next, I just want to be clear that I know that we need for more women to be breastfeeding in public, and I don't really care whether the mom covers up or not. Breastfeeding should happen however she feels comfortable doing so, wherever she feels comfortable doing so. I breast my kids wherever and whenever, and while others, they might have said something negative, No one ever said anything to me out loud, and I certainly never got kicked out of any place. I do remember a family member saying to me at one point, "You're not going to breastfeed in temple today, are you? During Yom Kippur service?" And I was like, well, if she's hungry, I am. And that was that. That was the only thing I could remember. I do think a lot about why such a stink is being made about women breastfeeding in public in recent years, though. I continue to scratch my head and, of course, think, I just don't get the big deal. Why do people care anyway? They could just look the other way, for goodness sake. I mean, really, that's really what I think. It's so simple. I've also wondered why it was not such a big deal many years ago when I was nursing my kids. Why wasn't I harassed and kicked out and ridiculed by family, friends, store owners, other people in public? Because believe me, I was like that Dr. Seuss poem. I nursed here, there, and everywhere. I nursed in the bank, the library, the park, any place I went, the bagel store, the bowling alley, the movie theater, the pizza place, the pool, my parents' house, the in-laws, friend's house, the farmer's market, wherever. I do, though, tell the story of my first nursing in public experience when my first baby was a newborn. You can go to episode number 5 and listen to that. But from that point on, I never thought twice about nursing in public, and between all 3 kids, I nursed for many years. I realized that when I was nursing my kids, we did not really have access to the greatest of nursing clothes or bras. Nothing like the really cool stuff we have now. I mean, I had nursing tanks like they have now when I was a nursing mom. I probably would have owned like 2 in every color. I love nursing tanks, and I love the bras that we have now. I literally had 2 bras to choose from, only white, and they were sold at pennies, and they felt like I had on a suit of armor. So most days, I just wore a regular bra a little larger and a shirt that was a size larger. This is how I would go about breastfeeding my babies when they were hungry. I would just stick my hand under my shirt, pull the bottom of my bra up and over my breast, and pull up my shirt slightly to latch the baby on. In doing so, there was just a hint of breast tissue that could be seen. My baby's body covered my stomach, and my shirt would fall loosely over the whole top portion of my breast. So I imagine very little could be seen. I never used a blanket or a cover or a shawl, just couldn't be bothered with that. So I realized that this is different than the really cool nursing bras and tanks that are common now, and different than a lot of shirts that are made now. So rather than pull from the top down, I lifted from the bottom up. I don't know, maybe there was just less nursing in public. It was maybe 25-30% of mothers were breastfeeding at the time, and by 3 months that was probably cut in half. And because of the style of bras and clothes we wore, we just didn't show much, if any, breast tissue. But thinking about all this out loud just always gets me crazy. In the last 5 years or so, there's been such an increase, a major increase in stories where mothers are getting harassed about nursing in public, and it just drives me insane. And yet, there are as many mothers who are saying, well, tough boogies, that's their problem, and I am going to feed my baby wherever and whenever. I smile when I think about how many moms are walking around with their babies, not buying into public pressure and feeding their babies now wherever and whenever their babies are hungry. I smile because it makes me happy that more and more mothers are not staying home isolated and buckling under the pressure of those people who think we should not breastfeed wherever they are. I smile when I look at the cartoon I have posted. I put one on my Facebook page, and this may not be exactly how it goes, but it shows a woman nursing in public and someone making a stink out of it. And they're wanting to give her blankets. They hand her a blanket to cover herself up, and the mom takes the blanket and puts it over the offending person's head. Here, it bothers you. then put a blanket over your head. Love that one. I have a lot of others like that, but that's my favorite. And lastly, I smile because I often think, what would my father say about all these lovely moms nursing their babies in public, where he could clearly see some more breast tissue and clearly know what they were doing? I hope that he would smile at the beautiful sight and say, "Yep, that's what they're made for." If you want to see a few family pictures, you can go to All About Breastfeeding Community. Just search for it on Facebook. It's my Facebook group page. And join us. You can join in or start a conversation about anything related to breastfeeding. We could talk about this show. If you have anything to add, any stories of your own. I'm going to put the link for the Facebook page in today's show notes. Or, again, you can just search for All About Breastfeeding Community and join us. Have a wonderful Father's Day, everyone. And to all the breastfeeding moms who are happily breastfeeding in public, keep on keeping on. Until the next show, bye-bye.